So, mom was telling me about a book that she's reading, and there's this guy in it who, by all accounts, is a great husband. He's supportive and thoughtful. He makes every right decision. He is green flag after green flag across the board. And then this one detail gets introduced. He mentions he has a favorite female coworker who he's traveling abroad with for work. And suddenly, we both kind of tensed up. Here it comes. Even though we hadn't actually done anything wrong, at least not yet. But it got us talking. Why do we do that? Why do we take a single unknown and immediately start bracing for the worst?
What's interesting is that's not just about a fictional character. We do it everywhere. We see one thing, we fill in the blanks, we build a whole narrative around it, and it's usually not a generous one. Lately, it feels like that instinct has kind of taken over how we process, well, everything. There was a Tangle article recently talking about how only a few years ago people were outraged over perceived corruption tied to then President Joe Biden's son, Hunter. People were really up in arms about it. Lots of things were done. And now there are situations happening that are arguably just as concerning, if not more so, and the reaction feels muted. It's as if we either already decided what we believe, as if we're too overwhelmed to even engage with frustration anymore. And somewhere in there, it feels like we've stopped giving the benefit of the doubt, but we've also stopped holding the same line across the board.
On one hand, we're quick to assume the worst, like with the guy in mom's book. On the other hand, in real life, sometimes we don't react at all, even when maybe we should. And that's kind of the tension we're sitting on today. Why are we so quick to brace for negative outcomes in some situations, but totally checked out in others? Why is fear, or maybe just exhaustion, driving so much of how we respond? At what point do we stop trusting our instincts or stop standing up for the things we actually believe in? Because it kind of feels like we're overreacting, underreacting, or just opting out altogether.
So, today we wanted to unpack that. Why do we assume the worst? Why do we avoid the hard stuff? And what fear is actually doing behind the scenes of it all? Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom. I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
And I'm mom.
So, this conversation really truly came to be because mom was telling me about her book. Like she mentions in the intro, it's fiction and there are several characters, and here's what's going on, and here's what's happening. And we were just talking. And she brings up this part about this lovely, wonderful husband who, I mean, you couldn't make better choices knowing what you know. And you kind of are just proud of him. And then this detail comes out, and we both went, it's going to happen. It's
We're
going
going
to
to be
happen.
so disappointed.
We're going to be so disappointed in him. And we started really talking about, why do we feel that way? Why do we jump there? We have no reason to feel that way. Why do we go skipping all of the green flags just to stake a claim in with a red flag that there's no reason it should even exist? And so one of the things that we started talking about is the psychology of it all, the psychological tendencies of something like negativity bias. Our brains give more weight to potential threats than they have than positive signals. The one maybe bad detail outweighs a pile of good ones. We've talked about Young House Love before on this podcast, the blog, and I'm sure I've talked about this particular instance on this podcast because it's very present in my brain. She would get online and do some DIY project in her own home and put it out there in the world. And she would have thousands of people saying, "Oh, Sherry, great job. Oh, Sherry, it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, I never imagined it would be so great." And then one person would come in with some kind of negativity. "I think it sucks. I think it's ugly. I can't believe you did that." And it completely negated every single glowing comment that she had. And she had to sit down and kind of back up herself and say, why do I allow it to carry so much weight? It's my house. I like it. And so we were talking about that negativity bias just in general, because I think in a lot of ways it impacts all of us.
I think we all do it. You
For
you
sure.
hear that one negative comment. I mean, you can be a great coworker, or a great mom, and you hear that one negative comment, and you just focus on it. And so, as we begin to do this, we talked about how our brains do that to us.
I mean, here's the thing. It only takes one card in a house of cards to collapse the whole thing. That's just how it is.
Yeah, no matter how firm the foundation.
It's not about the foundation.
No,
All the other cards
it's
could be glued together and you could take one out and the whole thing fall over.
yeah. So why don't we give people the benefit of the doubt?
I think it has a lot to do with vulnerability. I think we don't like even presenting an option for us to be wrong or hurt or stupid or have bad taste. I think it's
Yeah.
subjective.
I think sometimes we do. I think
What?
sometimes we do give people the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
I don't think we always do, but it's really hard to give the benefit of a doubt to, especially in a scenario where you don't have all of the information.
I agree with you. I think that again kind of goes back to the psychology of it all, the inherent desire to protect yourself. If
If you expect the worst, you can only ever be pleasantly surprised.
But you lose a lot of benefit if that's the way you're going to live. I mean, if you
Why?
look at a couple who have a loving relationship, but you let that one thing niggle in your brain and you focus on that one thing, you miss all the good things about that relationship, about that individual.
Sure. And I think this is a situation by situation basis. Because here's the thing, if you let that one thing worm its way in, your relationship may not be as strong as you think it is.
I think that that's kind of part of what I'm trying to say though. I think that it's our brains trying to prepare us.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, don't be caught off guard by this. Hey, just in case this is how the outcome goes, I want you to be prepared.
And that's really where this book was all going, is that you sit there and you mull so much over and you focus so much and you're not asking questions and you're not inviting the other person into all of those thoughts. And because you've not communicated, you end up with a completely different scenario than what you are really in. I mean, you said maybe your relationship's not as strong as you think it is, but what if it was and you just took a left turn on it?
Isn't that self-sabotaging?
Yeah. And what does it take you to get back once you've gone there?
I think
Y-
there are certainly situations in which you can't.
Yeah.
I
But you
kind of
kind of begin to ask yourself if it's your fault, which is another thing. Is it your fault or is it their fault? And again, if you're not communicating that and you're not asking questions or having conversations, you can run amok pretty quickly.
I know that in general, the 3 of us tend to be less so proponents of my truth and more so proponents of the truth. I think that in situations like this, it's really easy to get caught up in the my truth of it, even if that isn't reality.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I hate that part.
And I think our brains do it to us. I mean, I've read a couple of books about this. We think that we can trust our own brains, and the truth is you can't.
No, not
It
at all.
makes up your brain is geared to take the easiest way
Lie
out.
to you to protect you.
Lie to you to
Yes.
protect you.
Yeah. It wants to find a pattern. And so as soon as it finds the pattern, then it can convince you that, oh, look, and it may not have anything to do with that pattern at all. And you almost come away thinking, what do you do? Because if my brain is lying to me and I don't know it, how am I ever going to know the truth?
I mean, but then take into consideration, how am I ever going to understand what truth really is? If I can't trust myself, how the heck am I going to trust somebody else?
Yeah. And if you get into an algorithm that
Is feeding you.
is feeding all of that, you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part that what we were talking about, because you get into this algorithm, and it's not just social media, not anymore, but you get into this algorithm that convinces you of one thing, and it's really easy for us to say, oh, that's the truth. That's universal. And yet when you see something come in that's different to that, that doesn't support that, you almost are arguing with yourself.
And who wants to do that?
I mean, we all do. I think it's really natural for us all to argue with ourselves.
I think it
We
is.
lie to ourselves quite often.
I would agree with you there. And I think that we're watching this. I think that we're watching this unfold in and around the White House. I think, we were reading that Tangled article about corruption, and you mentioned it in the intro. If Hunter Biden needed to be punished, he was getting crucified. And I'm not going to bat for Hunter Biden by any stretch,
No.
but there were mobs and pitchforks and they were ready to go get him. And okay,
And
like
it
if
was
that's what he
basically
deserved,
over a $50,000 salary.
yes. Yes.
It was a little more than that.
It was
It was, it
50,000
was
a month
yeah.
while
But
his
the
dad was the vice
juxtaposition of
president.
that was all of the things that this administration has done that
Far
supported. I mean,
surpassed.
if you just look at the pardons that have come out of this administration, and I mean, all the January 6th, lots of Congress people who have been pardoned with no restitution, with all of that restitution that literally had gone through the legal system, completely put aside because they were Republican or because they were supportive of Trump.
I mean, Cole says it all of the time, and we haven't heard it from him here in a minute, but I think that it kind of is the same thing here. Carefully regulated, not heavily regulated. And we're watching all of these pardons and all of this corruption take place in front of us, and it's being heavily
Ignored.
ignored.
And I keep asking myself, why? Why are we all, and I've said this to you guys, if 20% of the population is supportive of the MAGA movement, that means there's still 75% of the population that isn't saying anything.
80.
Thank you. 20 and 75 is 95.
2075.
That's
You
not what
said
you
20.
said.
I swear I said 25% of the population.
Well,
It's
it's
about
on
the third
tape.
time you've done it in 2 days.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like, you've got 80% of the population, and I think that especially in today's day and age, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, but in today's day and age, I think that we fear the social cost of standing up for what we believe, what we think is right, what is important to us in some capacities, and we don't want to have to work that hard to defend ourselves, and we don't want to get in fights with more people about what it is that I believe versus what you believe. I think that we're just exhausted.
I think we're
I'm not
exhausted.
sure that I agree with you guys on this. Because I would say that there has been a more than proportional response relative to the Hunter Biden situation compared to this administration. Hunter Biden didn't have days planned in advance with protests across the country.
True.
What are those protests doing? What are the
What did they do
outcomes
about
of
Hunter
them?
Biden? Nothing.
There was a lot of legal and depositions and
And what happened? What happened to Hunter Biden?
His daddy pardoned
uh,
him.
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
also convicted of several felonies. It wasn't just swept under the rug.
I mean, that's
I
kind of what a
mean,
pardon
it
is.
was. Eventually, it
Eventually,
was.
yes.
But it was after several years of a lot of toil and grief. Nicole, I guess I kind of get what you're saying. And I'm weighing this too of after talking about red flags and talking about us jumping to the negative, you have to ask yourself, is that what we're doing? We're just jumping to the negative? And when is it that, and is that why we're hesitant to say anything?
I mean, I think that there's even more to it than that. We have watched the ripples turn into waves. I am uncomfortable talking to my weird Uncle Bob about this at Thanksgiving, so I'm just not going to talk about it anymore. I mean, you guys, it's why we started this podcast. Respectful disagreement and discourse, and an opportunity to sit down and talk through things and hear each other out and believe that we were right and wrong, educating ourselves. And I have talked to so many people that all go, I can't believe you're having conversations like that. I don't have conversations like that. And the reason that I bring that up is because I just feel like in lots of ways, we as a society, a much broader society beyond the three of us here, have just kind of been so beaten down about this and that and then this, and you want me to worry about that too, and I'm supposed to be outraged by this, and this is ridiculous. I mean, like all of these things. And I think that you've got some leadership across the board, not one side or the other, that are taking advantage of the fact that
We're exhausted.
we're creating division to the point of exhaustion.
You know, you and I also had a conversation. You were talking to a friend, and you came back and you said it was kind of an Eeyore moment
Mm,
where the decision was, do I want to do anything about this or do I just want to stick my head in the sand?
yeah.
And we talked about that. And I think sometimes it's a really hard decision to make.
I
I don't
also
think
think it's a really hard decision not to make.
sometimes. And I kind of was going to say that. I think you owe it to yourself to not stick your head in the sand, but it's really easy to stick your head in the sand. And I think it even comes down sometimes you so don't know what you do need to do, what's the right thing to do, that you're stuck. I mean, we've talked about analysis paralysis many times on this podcast. And I think that's kind of where you get to. You get to where this is not my area of expertise. You know, this is my frustration. I don't know what to do to fix this. One voice.
My vote doesn't matter.
Yeah. And then you go, we've talked about this too, that it doesn't really matter what the American public wants. 30%, you have a 30% chance of getting it passed or supported. And when you have those kinds of things, you're still sitting there in your Eeyore moment going, what's the point?
This is so hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Adulting is really hard.
I think beyond that, though, I think that we have this, especially for anybody who is at all paying attention, I think that we have this moment that we stumble upon that goes, is having this belief worth all of the trouble that it is going to cause?
Yeah. Or do I
And,
just ignore it?
or do I just ignore it? And I think that that scares me. And I'm just as guilty of it as the next guy.
I know. But I think, I mean, I can tell you, even with the two of you, there are subjects that I know I don't want to approach with y'all. It's one of us is going
Wise.
to get mad. One of us, you know, is going to get hurt. It's going to cause some tension. Is it really worth it? Is it going to change anything? Am I like that with everything with y'all? No. And Callie, there are times where you just go, this is more important than not saying anything. But
Mhm.
I don't think I'm alone in that circumstance where I'm the only person who has conversations that I'm just not willing. I mean, sometimes they're really not worthwhile having.
I mean, I I also think that we have been groomed, for lack of a better word, to not make mountains out of molehills, and I think that that has become so commonplace. Don't be difficult. Don't be divisive. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. There's lots of don'ts, but there's not a lot of do's.
Mm.
Do have this conversation, even though it's going to be really freaking hard. Do go and hear them out, even though you disagree with them.
Because quite often on the other side of that, it's really better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's that you've got to develop that momentum to get over that initial hump, right? To say, oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be so hard and so miserable, and I don't want to do it. I'm just not going to do it. But if you can get over that hump and say, this is going to be so hard and so difficult, I just did it. And it wasn't at all as bad as I thought. And that's not the case every time. But I just think that it's further proof that Mom, you said something here the other day when we were talking about sex and birth rates about you guys are constantly running the numbers. My generation didn't sit down and run the numbers to see if we could afford a kid.
Mm.
You guys are constantly running the numbers.
Because you didn't have to, you just could.
Fine. Not my point.
No, it wasn't. That wasn't true. I mean, we couldn't afford
It
kids when
was, though,
we couldn't
because
afford kids
you
when we
had
had kids.
3.
You just made a choice.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. You didn't make a mountain out of the molehill. You said, we'll figure it out. But
Or we stuck our heads in the sand and said, we're going to do this anyway.
that's not sticking your head in the sand. I don't think.
To some
Kinda the
degree,
I
opposite.
mean, I guess you can. I think that you were correct in that we're constantly sitting here running the numbers, especially my generation. We're sitting here running the numbers to say, what could the fallout of this be? How many followers could I lose? What is this going to look like in 6 months? How is this going to impact me in this way? How is this going to change my bottom line? I mean, and it could be anything. Where am I gonna go to get cleaning supplies now that I'm not supposed to go to Target anymore? Like, all of these things, whatever it may be, we're constantly calculating risk in our heads all of the time. All the time. And
do
I
you
think that that's
feel that way too?
exhausting.
Sort of. From a different perspective, here's the thing. I, for work, from a mathematical financial perspective, am constantly analyzing and assessing risk. That's my job. So I do that in many of the things that I do. However, I tend to be less risk averse than some people in instances like that and in certain scenarios. Where I tend to get caught up is efficiency is extremely important to me. So if I am risking being inefficient, then I am not going to expend my energy in that task or that scenario. But if I can risk something other than efficiency, I'm more likely to participate, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. But yeah, I mean, I think we're constantly assessing risk that we're biologically designed to. That's the reason our species is still alive.
I think it looks different today than it has historically. Yes.
Sure.
Assessing risk, yes. Absolutely. But I still think it looks different. And I think that when you're sitting here on the other side of it, with it already looking different, and then everything is coming at you a la drinking out of a fire hose, it's overwhelming fast.
Sure, there's a lot more risk to assess, which
Yes.
our brains weren't exactly built
Set
for,
up to do. Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, the acceleration of technology is fast outpacing the ability of our brains to keep up.
And calculate that risk. Going back to our episode last week, like, I think that we are outsourcing more of our thoughts to AI,
For sure.
and we are becoming less comfortable doing it ourselves. I mean, Mom, what were you and I talking about the other day? If you don't use it, you lose it. If you stop thinking for yourself and allow AI to do all of this for you, at what point do you have to sit back and go, I don't even remember how to do that anymore?
Is that why we don't stand up for what we believe in? Because we've outsourced it?
I think in some extents, to some
I don't know where
of
this
it, yeah.
is coming from. Like, what do you mean we don't stand up for what we believe in?
You have the most corrupt president in the entire history of the United States in office. Why has he been in for over a year? And really, in the grand scheme of things, nothing has happened. And it's continuing.
One, I don't think he is. I think he's just the most overt about it. Two, what are we supposed to do? What are the three of us going to do about it?
That's my point.
But you're standing up for what you believe in right now. You don't think that he should be there. That's you standing up for what you believe in. But
Right.
that doesn't mean that you can change it.
That's a very good distinction, that you can still voice what you believe in even though you can't change it, versus making a change, requiring a change.
That's not how
That's
progress works. Progress is literally the act of moving forward.
Yeah, I'm moving forward in spite of the things outside of my control.
Yeah,
So whose control is it all in?
that's a good question too.
Lots of people.
And I think that's probably our point, Cole, about standing up is, have we delegated control to somebody else because we are not?
Yes, that's what a republic is.
Um,
If there are checks and balances.
and I want to say that's what a republic is if the people are heard.
Not really.
No?
Representative democracy. Like, I understand what you're saying.
But representative is literally 50% of that.
Sure. And I'm not saying that our representatives are representing us well. That's kind of one of the risks with this system.
That's valid.
And I can go shout it from the rooftops. All these people are crooks. That doesn't unseat them.
How is that
Everybody
any
has to.
difference than a dictatorship or a monarchy at that point? If the people who were supposed to be being represented are not being represented, then the representatives are the ones who are in control. How is that not?
How can I make everybody vote for someone who's going to represent them? Like, again, I can stand up for what I believe in, doesn't mean that everyone else is going to do that. Like, I can, again, shout it from the rooftops. This person is a crook. This person is a crook. This person is a crook. But if that doesn't make other people vote differently, I still stood up for what I believe in, but it didn't change anything. And I don't have to shout it from the rooftop. I can just say it to people. Hey, I don't like either one. I don't like any of these choices. I think they're all bad.
What's the point? What's the point of saying it or shouting it?
Standing up for what I believe in.
What's the point of standing up for you believe in if there is no progress?
What? I don't know how to answer your question.
I mean, because that makes me think of that Albert Einstein quote about repeatedly doing the same thing over and over again is the
Expecting.
definition of insanity,
So I
and
should just
expecting a
bury
different
my head in the
outcome.
sand.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that instead of doing the same thing over and over again, you can shout it from the rooftops. But if shouting it from the rooftops doesn't move the needle, why are you going to continue shouting it from the rooftops?
I'm not.
But
That's
you
my
have to
point.
make a change.
Change what? How do I change something that's outside of my control?
Anything, everything.
I understand what you both are saying. Cola's going from maybe I'm that one person, one drop in the ocean that's not really going to make a change. But I think there's another step to it, Cole, that has to come with that collects those drops in the ocean to make a difference. And if we stop doing that,
I mean, not one single great leader in history was immediately great right out of the gate. I just don't think that you can look at anywhere in history and immediately look. I regret saying that already, but I think that you'd be really hard pressed in history to look at somebody and find somebody who was a great leader and look at every single action of them and say they were great from the start. Everything that they did was the right move, the right call. And my hesitation is if you want to talk about Jesus, fine, whatever. But my immediate reaction was Martin Luther King Jr., any various president or kings, various advocates for different things like Taylor Swift. Like you're sitting here talking about you can't just keep shouting from the rooftops. I can't do anything that I don't have any control over. I can't change anything if I don't have any. They couldn't either until they continued to find a
Right, but
way to
why do I have
change.
to be a great leader?
I'm not saying that you do have to be a great leader. I'm just saying that if you're gonna sit here and talk about standing up for what you believe in, even on a small scale, that requires the ability to be nimble and to fail and to course correct and to do.
well, let me ask you this. Is standing up for what you believe in being a leader of yourself? I mean, maybe not of a crowd, but isn't that being a leader uh, uh, of of yourself? And I don't know what it is if you're not a leader for yourself.
Sometimes being a leader is picking your battles.
Sometimes, but
I
not
get
all the
that.
time because it's hard.
Sometimes that's an excuse too
Yeah, that we all make.
that we all make. I mean, sometimes I'm just too tired to do the right thing
Yeah,
or the necessary thing.
or something else.
So I don't know, Cole. I think for you to have integrity, you have to stand up for what you believe in. And whether that's
Agreed.
shouting it from the mountaintop or whether that's just standing your ground, it's still standing for what you believe in.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I can stand up for what I believe in without having to impact change.
I guess for me, it's not standing up for what you believe in if you don't ever stand up.
What's that saying? What is it? If you don't,
If you
then you'll
stand
fall for
for
anything.
if you stand for nothing, then you'll fall for anything.
I don't know. I think that's worth some conversation
Mhm.
because there has to be a point there where you know what you believe in, whether you're verbalizing that, whether you're shouting that, where you know what you believe in, and that's in your gut, and it's the line that you're not willing to cross. Callie and I used to have this conversation all the time that she had a line, and she knew where that line was. And I think if you don't have that line, then you're just gonna be mamby-pamby about everything. So I think there has to be a point where you know for yourself what you're gonna stand for. And I think that sometimes we let that slide. If you look at white lies, it's the same thing. I mean, I I have 0 respect for somebody who will lie to me, but we tell white lies all of the time. And we do it sometimes to make, you know, "Oh, yeah, your hair looks great," or, "No, your butt's not big." I mean, we do those things because they don't have
They don't create
enough
friction.
substance to they don't have enough value.
What is standing up for what you believe in, like in a real physical sense?
I think for me, it is having conversations. I think that it is having hard conversations, listening to other people's perspectives, listening to them go, Callie, I think you're missing the plot here. Okay, hold on. Like I was talking to somebody about the podcast the other day. There is no better way to pressure test my opinions on something than to put them up with you two because I have to be able to defend them. And that's not to say that I am 100% right. I'm not. I'm not even close. But there are moments where I'm like, you guys, this is how I feel. This is what I think. And I think that you're wrong. And then one of you
And
will go,
sometimes we've backed off of that and come back later and thought, "Were we right about that?"
yeah, for sure. But just the
I think
willingness to have the conversation is part of it. Not everybody is willing to have the conversation. Cole, you and I have had this conversation before. We're weird.
Agreed.
Not everybody has these conversations. Not everybody is willing to go and put their convictions to the test and say, hey, does this even make sense what I think that I believe? Or do I just believe it because I saw it on TikTok? Like, we
okay,
have to be more.
I'm gonna get us in trouble probably right here, but I think that stand up for what you believe in, and we've had that kind of this conversation in a previous podcast. If you are going to be a Christian, then you have to stand up for the basic tenets of what that is.
Of
I don't think
Christianity.
that's fair. I don't think you get to stop at the basic tenets. I think you need to read the word, know what it says, and behave the way he tells you to behave.
Yeah,
Period.
but you got to start somewhere. You got to build a foundation first, and the basic tenets are that foundation.
But
You
here's
can't
the
wait
thing,
for perfectionism to be a Christian. I'm going to
but
know
here's where I was
everything.
going. Here's where I was going with that. If I go in and I say I'm a Christian, but I don't do anything that the Bible says, then
You're
I'm
lying.
just saying that. And so I'm not standing up for what I believe because I'm not doing
You
what
don't
I'm
believe
telling you
it.
that. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
can say it all day long. So I think that's part of it is being truthful and admitting, being brave enough to say, gosh, I think this is wrong. This doesn't feel right. And I want to ask somebody else. I'm going to say this to somebody else because this and maybe I'm wrong about it.
This
But
feels icky. I don't want to participate.
yeah. Yeah. Who was it the other day? It was the Uber driver who where did we hear this story, Cal? It was the Uber driver and the masked guys with guns hopped in the back
Yeah.
and
He's an
he didn't mean
unintentional
it to
accomplice
be.
and getaway driver.
Yeah, he didn't mean to be. And he could have said nothing and go on about his business, but he was worried about it and so he called the police after they got out of the car and he goes, "I think I was just an accomplice to a robbery. Help me." And I think that's it. He could have gone on,
He
but
could
he
have
knew
also
something was wrong with it.
turned around and said, "No, get the hell out of my Uber." But he
I
didn't,
might not wouldn't there if they've got guns, I might not have been.
which is my point. Like there are all kinds of different various ways that you can stand up for what you believe in. It doesn't have to all be this is the only way. Well, I am not going to drive these guys with guns. Get the fuck out of my Uber. Like that
For some people, that is the way.
for some people it is the way. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to just sit there and do nothing,
Just drive them around all night long and let them knock off different places isn't the right thing.
I mean, it could be.
Or you're
It
going to go
might
to
be the
jail
right
with them.
thing for someone. Well, legal and right and wrong are not the same thing.
Agreed. Not always. No, he's right. Just because something is legal doesn't mean that it's right.
I don't disagree with that. But when you're going around and stealing from other people, I feel like
Again,
that's wrong and
morality
illegal.
is Morality is subjective, not objective. So, what is right for me, what is good to me, may not be what is right and good to you.
Okay, Robin
I
Hood.
I
swear to
think that stealing is bad, but not everybody does.
Okay.
one of our defenses is that we often bury our heads in the sand instead of doing something hard
Something
or
different.
something
Sure.
unpopular. So why do we do that?
I mean, I think
Safer.
I think
Go ahead.
is it safer? Is it always safer?
It's perceived as safer.
That I'll
It's
go there with
perceived
you.
as safer. Yeah. I don't
Yes.
know that it's always safer at all.
I don't know that it's always safer at all. But I think that we do know that avoidance is a coping mechanism, and I get it. I think that it's
I mean,
really easy.
if we go back to that original thing that our brains lie to us and we can tell ourselves a story, then it's very easy to put your head in the sand and pretend that you're not even doing that.
Yeah, because the alternative is complicated and overwhelming and hard.
Well, you know, I would like to say that it's harder, but sometimes sticking your head in the sand is hard. Sometimes
Oh,
just
yeah.
ignoring stuff.
I mean, I think that in many, many ways, it's all a push-pull, right? Like, you can stick your head in the sand, but this is what you're giving up in order to do that. You can go
It's
and turn into a leader, and this is what you're giving up to accomplish that. Like, there's always a push-pull. It's not always one and always the other.
it's also not always that cut and dried. I
No.
mean, if I go back to this book I'm reading about the Quitters Club, the whole deal is that each of these women has been in a position looking for something that they wanted maybe 10 years ago, and they've gotten so used to, that pursuing that idea that they've each come to a position where they've realized it's not what they want anymore. Or it's not making them happy, or it's not making their life good, and so they've
Quit.
decided to quit. And so I go back to burying your head in the sand. Sometimes that's just routine. We've gotten so used to
Comfortable.
doing the same thing. I mean, it's not that we're really necessarily avoiding something, we're just not paying attention to it. We're just continuing to do what we've continued to do.
Status quo. I mean, it literally is just your brain going, "I don't wanna, so I won't."
Been there, done that.
And I think
Today.
in many Do what?
Today.
Sure. I think in many ways I think we psych ourselves out a little bit. Change is gonna be hard. I'm gonna have to do that, and I'm gonna have to be accountable, even just to myself, to make that happen, and I don't wanna.
I think it gets s there's so many facets to it. You're afraid of what's going to come with that, what it's gonna cost, what you're gonna have to do, how much time you're gonna have to devote. What if what if you screw up? All of those things factor in. So we get involved in all of that, and our brain starts going, and again, it's looking for the easiest way out.
I think that Go ahead. I think that if we were to really drill down and put a label on that, exactly what you're talking about, mom, that's fear.
I don't disagree with you.
And so we did some digging into kind of, again, the psychology of fear, and the part of your brain that is responsible for fear actually reacts just a little bit, but milliseconds faster than the part of your brain that's responsible for logic and reasoning. And,
Because
we're
fear is what keeps you alive.
Yeah. That's where it came I mean, that's where it came from is eons ago, making sure that you were afraid of something kept you from getting eaten by the saber tiger.
I think that in some ways we're spoiled now. Fear is not the only way to stay alive.
Oh, no, agree. And let me clarify. The reason our brain reacts more quickly to fear is because ancient prehistoric humans, that is what kept them alive.
Yes.
We live in a very different world from those prehistoric humans.
Right. And that's kind of my point in all of this. Like, we are falling back on old habits, even though they don't serve us the same way.
Innate habits.
Biologically speaking, we cannot evolve fast enough to keep up with
Hmm.
societal, technological, cultural changes. Sucks, but it just is what it is.
But just that little bit of just those milliseconds, even knowing where they come from, can still make a huge difference in how you react.
Certainly, it's going to another cliche. Knowing is half the battle. If you're conscious of that, sometimes you can rein it in.
Hmm.
Sometimes. But think about that. I mean, and Cole, this may not happen to you, but it definitely happens to me as a woman where you're in a situation and you see somebody who's, maybe it's a dark street and you see somebody dressed a certain way. I'm going to react to that before my brain goes in to say, why are you worried about this? They're not paying any attention to you.
That's a
But I'm going to
biological
be,
response.
it's a biological response.
So I think that I don't disagree with this all being a biological response and that we can't evolve fast enough. But I guess my question becomes, if we're constantly assuming the worst, is that actually protecting us? Or is it quietly sabotaging us because we are so focused on that fear and navigating that fear that we don't have time to show up, do, be?
No, here's the thing. I don't think the answer to that is a yes, no. I don't think it's a black and white answer. I think sometimes it is saving you. And I think sometimes it's hurting you more than it's helping you because, again, society, technology, culture has accelerated past our ability to adapt physically, biologically. So I think the answer to that question is sometimes it's one or the other. Sometimes it's probably a little bit of both.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think that your point a minute ago about being cognizant of it all is really, really important. Is this something that I need to be afraid of, or is this something that I need to do something about?
I mean, I think that's an illustration that a lot more people than they or we or society realizes are operating on instinct.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. We need to be recognizing and realizing that that's how we're responding, reacting, operating, and maybe that's not always the best way.
I don't think
I
it's an
agree.
easy thing to always recognize either.
No,
I
no.
mean, it's just like you and I making a decision over a fictional character. He's going to screw this up. I mean, we've put him in a place and he's going to screw this up. And we had no basis for that. In fact, we had completely opposite basis for that.
Hmm.
I am really happy to report he did not screw it up.
Well, a little, but not the way you were thinking.
Not the way we were anticipating. Forgivably so.
That still doesn't sound good. Honorably so.
Honorably so. Yeah, that's much better. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you are always cognizant of your fears or jumping to conclusions or your own integrity. I don't know how you are. I, I'm certainly never, ever have been successful at that. But I think if we don't have conversations about it, we're not going to get any better. And we're more likely going to be hiding from ourselves if we are not willing to have those conversations.
I think that we need to remind ourselves, A, that we're never going to be perfect 100% of the time. And B, constant skepticism erodes trust, even if that's just within ourselves. And I think that we need to be careful of that.
Not just for ourselves, but for everybody.
Yes. And
Oof.
Okay, hold on, really quick. Coming from the optimist of the group, we have to recognize that the opposite is also true. I cannot just only all of the time be optimistic. It's going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Let's go get them. That is just as risky and just as much burying your head in the sand as doing nothing, being
There
overwhelmed.
is a middle ground.
Yeah.
In the words of the great communicator, trust, but verify.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. So
Are
funny.
y'all ready for a weird thought?
Yes.
This one was pretty funny to me. So, I'm going to tell you about a same height party or a level party. So, I
I
mean,
could just wear my regular shoes.
you could wear your regular shoes, but
Cole is
here's
the
the
bar.
deal. I mean, I am the shortest one in this group, but I'm still a tall woman. So, however, I very distinctly remember one day smarting off about something about your dad and two of his friends who were very tall stepping up into my space and freaking me out and me going, you need to step back. And and forever after, that same guy, bless his heart, he was a pastor, and I
That is
always
a
had to say,
horrifying
Mark
feeling. It's happened like twice in my entire life.
and
It's very
Cole,
rare
I
for
would
me,
say
but you're just like, what is
that was the
happening right
first
now?
that was the first time in my life that it was ever freaky to me, but it would I mean, they were right here on me. So,
That's a big
this is
dude.
not something that, I've thought about so much, but
Try being like 5'4".
I'm good, thanks.
They
and
live
see,
that way.
I can't imagine that.
No.
I'll take the doorway head smacks.
Yeah.
This came from an idea in Germany in 1997, but was just recently reiterated by a guy in Oakland. His name is Lucian Novosel to host what he called a same height party. So basically, what he did was he invited 15 people of different heights. The tallest one was 6'5", and I think the shortest was maybe 4'11. But he built shoes out of a 3D printer to make them all the same height. So at this party,
To level the
15
playing
people,
field.
yes, 15 people were all 6'5". I mean, and they were kind of funny looking in some regards.
Was saying 2-foot platform shoes was probably a pretty interesting party experience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, think about the 5'2" girl who's never opened a cabinet, one of the upper cabinets because she's too short to reach them. And her response was, is this how other people see the world?
Yeah, it's
Or
awesome.
here, he had them play like pool. So imagine if you're used to being 5'2" and all of a sudden you're 6'5", you're completely different
Beach all
in
the way
how
across
you
the table.
approach the pool table. I mean, and
And your center of gravity changes.
yes,
Everything is all off.
yes. I mean, like he highly recommends that you give walking sticks to the people who are, in the really tall shoes. But even the 6'5" guy said all of a sudden he felt more at ease because everyone was at his level. He's not looking down on anybody. They're not looking up, at his nose hairs. And just how it felt to have an entire party of people who were the same height. I mean,
Sometimes I do my hair and I'm like, it looks silly on top. And I'm like, Kelly, nobody can see that. You're taller than everyone. You're fine. Then everybody would see.
seriously, but isn't that funny?
That is funny.
I mean, Cole, would
I
it
go.
be different to you to have everybody at your height? I just thought it was, and I
My neck
do want
wouldn't be
to
so
say
sore.
that when his party was over, he donated some of the shoes went to a school teacher, which I would love to be in a class of kids wearing these and all being the same height. That would just be too much fun to be a fly on the wall for that one.
Oh, yeah. So funny. That's a weird one.
I loved it.
What's
Okay.
our
What
good
you
news
got for
this
good
week?
news?
Okay. So this one's kind of weird and then hopefully maybe really good. We'll see. So on May 2nd at 3 o'clock in the morning, Spirit Airlines, the low cost option for air travel, abruptly shut its doors, leaving thousands of employees out of work and
Real
several
quick,
thousand travelers.
the anti-tall person airline.
Also true. Thousands of travelers were left scrambling. And the internet kind of did the internet things. A TikTok creator said, what if we just bought it ourselves, all of us? And so it took him a couple of hours to create a website, to launch a crowdsourced campaign to buy Spirit Airlines and bring it back as something totally different. He wants to bring it back as being owned by regular people instead of private equity. And within hours, it started blowing up. We're talking tens of thousands of people pledging money. Millions of dollars have been raised in commitments, and so much traffic that the website has literally crashed several times.
Oh gosh.
The idea is modeled after, I didn't know this, Cole. I'm so curious as to if you do. The idea is modeled after the Green Bay Packers, the NFL team, who all of the fans own the shares and decisions are much more democratic. And so the team can't just be sold off or relocated on a whim. And it's the only NFL team that is that way from what I understood. So I
I
thought
didn't
that
know
was
that.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
it's publicly traded,
Yeah.
sort of. It's a little bit more complex than that, but
So here's the wild part. The pitch that he put out is basically if enough everyday people, all of the 44 million people who rode a Spirit Airlines flight in 2024, if everybody chips in the cost of a plane ticket, we could collectively own an airline. So to be clear, this is as of the recording of this is about 48 hours old. These are pledges. They're not collected funds yet. And buying and running an airline is wildly complex and complicated. Billions of dollars, lots of regulations, logistics out the wazoo, the whole nine. But what makes it really good news is that in those less than 48 hours, thousands of strangers have stepped up and said, let's do something. We saw it collapse. And instead of just allowing it to disappear, they said, what if we try and put our heads together and build something together? Build something instead. And it has the potential to be very messy and to not work at all. But I think that it's also a reminder that people are still willing to show up, pool their resources, and imagine a different way of doing things, even in an industry that feels completely out of reach. So I've been watching the website, letsbuyspiritair.com, if you're so inclined. And since we started this podcast recording or started sitting down to get ready for it, 24,000 people have donated. The average pledge size has gone from $1,017 to $808 in the last 48 hours. More than $132 million have been pledged. The goal, in order to really be able to take this on, is 1.75 billion with a B. So they've got a ways to go, but wouldn't it be so
Uh,
interesting to have.
What a fascinating idea.
yeah, let's publicly buy a company that was already publicly traded. Sorry, I'm not trying to be a party pooper. It's just it's kind of weird to me that Spirit Airlines was already publicly owned.
Well, Cole, I went immediately to who would run it? I mean, who would be
Yeah,
responsible for running it? Because I don't think I'd want the same board that's, ran it
definitely
into the
not.
ground. Do
Yeah,
what?
definitely not. Definitely not. Don't keep the board. But I mean, in
So
the long
who's
run,
going
that's
to,
who you're having to buy it from is the board, because those are going to be
and
the
how are you
majority
going to
shareholders
decide
more
that?
than likely.
And Cole, I never flew on Spirit. I think you did when you went to Colorado
Sucks.
that time.
It sucks. There's a reason
So,
it's the budget airline. It's very minimalist, I will say. It sucked for me because airplanes are already cramped. Spirit airplanes were really cramped.
So I think that it's worth noting that they have started the process of um, sorting all of this out. So, how your pledges translate, whether you pledge $45, which is the minimum pledge, or $45 million, each person who owns it gets one vote. And so it is all done via democratic governance where no single member can dominate the direction and the decisions on major matters, whether that's the routes that they fly, the leadership that is in place, the strategic directions are all collectively made by the voting membership. So again, if you pledge 45 bucks, you get one vote. If you pledge 145 million or 145,000 bucks, you get one vote. The only thing that changes is your profit share.
and how many people have donated right now?
As of recording right now, 164,241.
That's a big board.
Yeah. It's not that many shareholders,
I'm
though.
very curious to see where this goes,
Yeah.
how successful this is. And I'm going to say for Cole, I- I'm going to be the negative Nelly here. And I read an article about why we need Spirit and that they keep the other airlines, you know, pricing down. But
That's legitimate.
Yeah.
A loss of competition is advantageous. It allows the other airlines. So you're reducing supply,
Right. Which
which
creates demand.
effectively increases demand on the other airlines, making likely flights more expensive across the other providers.
so I was going to say, I'm not sure that we need them, but maybe we do.
I mean, here's the thing. It's not quite that straightforward because what happens to all of the assets of Spirit? What happens to all their hundreds, if not thousands of jetliners? They go, somebody's going to buy them. I don't think they're just going to junk their entire fleet. So that
There
means
are some
Delta,
that might be
United, American
junkable.
Airlines. Sure, obviously there are assets that are not going to be worth it. But here's the thing. You've got American Airlines, Delta, United, Alaskan Airlines. You've got a ton of different providers that we're talking about, competitors in this space. They're likely who are going to buy these assets if it's not this particular venture that we're talking about in our good news segment here. So they now that evens it out some because they are taking on some of that supply. Now, are they going to behave that way? Not necessarily,
We're
but from a
also
pure mathematical perspective,
we're also not talking about thousands of planes. Spirit operated between like 96 and 125 aircraft
no,
total.
that's less than I thought.
Yeah. So,
I mean, still,
Interesting.
90 jetliners is a lot.
yes. Yes. They're mostly Airbuses, just FYI.
It will be so interesting to see what happens with this. But I'm so excited about the idea that somebody said, "Hey, we can do this." That's Winco too, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's owned by its employees, though.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wonder how many of the 17,000 employees who just lost their job are contributing to this. That's interesting.
Mhm. We may never
Keep
know.
us posted.
Yeah. So my whole premise was not that Spirit Airlines has a chance, but it's more so that you've got a bunch of people that said, "Hey, we think we can do something.
They're going to
Let's
change the
try."
name, right? And maybe get a new paint job.
You get one vote.
You
If
got
you would like to donate, you can have one vote.
I was gonna say, you got 100,000 people to ask that question to.
We're up to 165,000.
Okay, Cole, you'll have to let us know if that's a good bet or not.
I mean,
Maybe.
I cannot provide financial advice.
That's what I expected you to say. Love
I
you
love
guys.
you guys.